fine channel. It is time for the weekly wrap-up. Yes, that's right. It's time for me to calmly discuss with you how our train is barreling down the tracks, how we are heading to SHTF land, and in my opinion, we are in a crisis bubble. I think we're at a moment where we're on the precipice in every sector of life. And people, they don't understand it. They don't get it. And it's evident by their reaction to the things that are going on around us. I have the regular material, and at the end of this video, I have a very, very important message and news story. It's a message and news story that comes, and it's part of what happened this week, and it's part of the crisis we're facing. It is, in all ways, an intellectual crisis. It is a crisis of thinking, and it's being clouded by the use of political terminology. Concepts like common sense, which are not common because they're not viewed with a historical perspective that understands why we are where we're at. The crisis we're facing exists because there's an apathetic attitude towards what is happening. And there's complacency on the part of the people to tolerate the intolerant. But before we get to that, let's just go down through what happened this week and ask ourselves, are things getting better? Or are they getting worse? Are we moving towards shit it's the fan? Or, are we on the road to paradise? To me, it's obvious. We go through this exercise so we can recap some of the things that happen. I don't cover everything. I never can. Don't have that kind of time. Neither do you. But we cover some of the highlights of why we are where we're at, and why and how it shows a pattern of progress in the wrong direction. Right? So I want to start and just go down the list. Ex-FBI big shot, right, says Trump honored Hitler on 8/8. What an interesting concept. And for NBC News to air this, right, to allow someone to say something so asinine about the President of the United States. Now, we've had to suffer through all sorts of presidents, whether Democrat or Republican, all the stupid things they have to say. Both sides have suffered for it, right? For having to listen to something they don't agree with and put up with, presidential politics. But this guy is not a politician. This is an ex-bureaucrat who's out there saying and making the accusation that Trump is like Hitler. He's a Nazi supporter. He's a Hitler supporter. He honors genocide. It is so off the hook. It is so spurious. It is so. I mean, how do you wrap your mind around what is being said? As soon as you look at history and go, has this ever been done before? Has it ever come out on mainstream news for the world to see that someone can, without any evidence, in fact, to the contrary of any intellectual and intelligent thought, this guy's allowed to get away with saying this? You can say whatever you want, freedom of speech, but to say it on national news and have the NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation, essentially sanction it, approve it, and spread that message. It shows that they are pushing, absolutely pushing, for there to be civil unrest in this country. China accuses the USA and CIA of involvement. They went on to call, right, we called them thuggish. They said that the United States government, not we, because we, me and you, don't have anything to do with this. They say they're using, we called them thuggish and they called us gangsters. And what does China have? They have a picture of an American operative, an American agent, speaking with the leaders of the Hong Kong protest movement. Of course, another government isn't going to like that. Would we like it if we saw Russian intelligence agents meeting with any protest group here that is being violent? No, of course not. We would quickly draw a line of association between foreign agents and people who are doing violent protests here. So why is it that we get to discount what they have seen? Well, we can't. We can't. There was a huge stock market sell-off this week. It recovered. And what is causing this back and forth? Well, there's underlying weakness in all sectors, in the bond market, in the equity market. The commodities are very helter-skelter. Gold and silver went up, but oil, tanked 5% in a day, and it's recovered a little bit. It's extremely scary. Now, when times are good, right? When times are good, things are very smooth. They're smooth and they go up. And as companies make bad decisions, they'll go down a little, then they'll correct them and go back up. We are going up and down in wild gesticulations. And the manipulation in the markets, I don't think could be much more clear than they were, say, back last Christmas, when they actually said, hey, the plunge protection team is being called in. Mainstream news talking about the government and bank intervention into our markets to hold or prop them up. That's what we've got. So what we've got is we've got plates that are crashing. They're falling off, spinning plates on a stick, they fall off, and they'll run over, put a new plate on there, and give it a good spin. And they're running from sector to sector within the world of finance, economics, corporate industry, and they're propping things up so that the crash is kicked down the road, right? Kicking the can down the road. A third Chinese bank has now been nationalized by the People's Bank of China, the PBOC. The banking system in China is falling apart very, very quickly now. Like I said, we are in crisis mode, and the governments and banks are in crisis management. They're managing the crisis one event at a time. The bond market has fully inverted, even with the government intervention to try and hold the bond market up. It has to do with debt. It has to do with economic activity or GDP. It has to do with confidence of the people in the system. Friday, the stock market started off great because the inflation index was okay. Well, inflation was falling a little, right? Or everything's good. It's up, it's down. No, wait, they don't know. But no matter what, it's good. Just trust us. And then the market started to slide again. Right? It's not good, and the people don't trust. They're losing confidence. Let's move on. Yeah, bond yields, they go upside down. Those are recession indicators. And when you take into account everything that else is happening domestically as well as internationally, how can one not come to the conclusion that we're heading into a recession? That's right. Merrill Lynch, Morgan Stanley, one of those M companies, right? As well as big hedge fund guys, big names, are saying we're heading into a recession. How could it be more clear than that? When people are standing in front of the mainstream media and saying we're heading into a recession, the indicators are all there, the signs are there, for everyone to ignore it. The reason is because of greed and apathy. The belief that, we're heading into a recession. That means the Federal Reserve Bank is going to drop rates. And they're going to reinstitute quantitative easing, so everything is fine. That didn't correct anything back in 2008. All it did was stall the ultimate collapse. Do they think they can stall it again? Well, the difference is the debt has gone from what? From, I think, 9 trillion, and we're up into the mid-20s. Plus all of the hidden debt that the government has chosen to hide for national security purposes. It was discovered, and then like a cat burying a crap load, right, they ran in there and covered it up. Oh, it's not there, nothing to worry about. But like all crap that's buried by cats, it's just under the surface, right? Just a little sand on top of it. So yeah, the bond market is bad, and it's revealing that it's getting worse. We've seen some massive bond action this week with rates dropping and then skyrocketing, not skyrocketing, but springboarding back up. There is not, it's hard to believe that many people would want to get into the bond market, which would cause rates to fall. And that all of a sudden they're selling off, right? And the rates rise significantly. Either you want to get into long-term bonds or you don't. And if it's good one day, why is it bad the next? Just things to think about. Remember, when things are good, we have a steady line with a little bit of growth in it. When things get wild and unpredictable, this is the type of action we see. And that is exactly the type of action we've been seeing. Now, I'm going to cover this at the end. I don't even want to touch it till the very end. Gold broke out this week. Silver broke out this week, big time. Big time. Essentially, some people think, well, that means we have big inflation. Well, they're artificially holding the inflation down. So what does the move in precious metals and into bonds tell us? Especially in gold, it is a vote of no confidence by the wealthy in the banking system. The central banks are not doing their job well, or they've done their job and they've come to the end of all they can do. So it's time to start getting into gold. Now, the move into gold looks significant on its surface. For people who own gold and silver, you saw big rises. Gold and silver have outperformed stocks and equities, which are supposed to rise in value. Right? The dollar has remained relatively flat. It hasn't tanked. So it's not a belief that the dollar is bad. It's a vote of no confidence in the banking system itself. And when it fails, ultimately, right, the dollar loses value compared to gold. And that shows that, yeah, the dollar's losing, right? But it's confidence in the banking system, the monetary system itself. Okay. Tesla, self-drive accidents in their cars, right? Right. They want us to put our faith in their automobiles, that they're going to travel safe down the road. Well, they're crashing and more lawsuits. Big question for me is, do you see the metaphor or the simile between the self-driving car, how we're supposed to trust it, and the bankers who have got us in autopilot mode and everything's just fine, right? But we keep getting into these little mini crashes, right? These little scrapes and bumps and hitting potholes, right? And sharp turns left and sharp turns right at the last second to avoid catastrophe. Some very similar concepts or ideas there. President Trump has continued to go after his political opponents with great gusto, and I can't blame him for that, because they are going after him. They are calling for the eradication of Trump, Trump's family, the Trump administration, and anyone who votes for Trump. They are literally calling now, Democrats are, their leaders in the press are openly calling for the eradication and for concentration camps for people who don't believe as they do. They want to put us in death camps, in concentration camps. They are outwardly calling for that. That is what the Nazis called for. They're accusing us of being fascists and white supremacists and hateful people, while they are exactly that. They're projecting onto us what they are. They are full of hate. And they want to do what the Nazis did, which is put people in concentration camp. And they're calling for the eradication and death of millions in America and around the world. Hundreds of millions of Americans will be killed by these people because we don't believe as they do. Even Democrats are now stepping back from the left socialist communist wing that has taken over the Democrat Party. And like the Nazis, they're becoming louder and more vociferous. And they're willing to do whatever it takes to gain power. Does this remind you of Nazi Germany? How was it that the German people could allow this to happen? And so the entire Germanic peoples of the world have been put down since World War II, and guilt heaped on their heads for everything that was done to the Jews and the French and everybody that they murdered. Everybody. Eastern Germans, Eastern Europeans were put in concentration camps and made slaves and killed. All of these peoples, in the millions, were killed. And the world has the temerity and guts to accuse them of being the worst and the weakest-minded people, and we're seeing it again. I'm criticizing them. You criticize them. Where is the mainstream press? Why aren't they criticizing these leftists who are calling for the eradication of us and death camps for any who oppose them? Where is the media? They're complicit. They're on the side of. They're agreeing with. They're allowing. Remember these people and their calls for death camps and the murder of people like you and me, who are peace-loving Americans who just want our Constitution respected and our rights upheld. Right? Germany, speaking of Germany, they're offering sexual consent classes to immigrants. Germany is finally accepting that the immigrants from the Middle East and Northern Africa that they've allowed into their country, they're finally admitting that they're raping women, that they're gang raping women. They're trying to explain to them in terms that sexual consent has to be given before you're allowed to have sex with a woman. Now, it's quite fascinating, right, that this is how these people think. You know, you can teach dogs tricks, right? Can you teach a rabid dog new tricks? You can teach a dog tricks, right? But are these people, they don't have the same culture, the same foundation, the same concept of fairness and equality and law that the Germans have, right? So how can we expect someone who doesn't even come from the same country or culture or have the same fundamental beliefs, right, the same morality, how can you expect them to want to go to a class? They're offering the class. They're not saying they're mandated, they're offering it. But at least the German government is now recognizing that there's a problem. Isn't that incredible? How far do we have to go down this road before we realize that it's shit hitting the fan? That allowing in these immigrants who have nothing in common with our culture, they're not good for us. Right? Even Mexico, which is cut off from America by an invisible line, south, points south from that invisible line is Mexico. And we have a lot of good Mexican people that want to come up here and work and participate in the American dream. And we have a lot of bad people that want the same things, except they don't want to participate. They want to steal from the American dream. What's the difference between America and Mexico? We're so close, yet so far. It is the cultural and legal foundation. The way they think down there is different than the way we think up here. We, them, us, right? We're different. And even though the differences are small, they seem insurmountable. It's okay for them to come up here in their minds and take for free all they can get. Take. Health care, welfare. Take. Why? Does it make them evil? No, it's their culture though. You take what you can get when you can get it, while the getting is good, is part of the Mexican culture. And it's horrifying to see that that's becoming the American culture as well. Instead of I'm going to work hard and create and save and build and work hard, they have a take while you can get it culture mentality. How much different is the cultures that are being imported into Europe? Very similar on the take side. They will take and push their luck until no more. It's a terrible way. To me, it's an obvious comparison between cultures that take and cultures that create. cultures that work hard and cultures that work only as hard as they have to. It's a big difference. In Venezuela this week, we've seen both the announcement that the United States is going to blockade them, and then the announcement that a ship has been held by Americans, American interests. There was a food ship or a ship with food that was bound for Venezuela. Right? We're blockading. That is as aggressive a move in an economic war as you can get without firing artillery. In other words, it's ratcheting up the international pressure and conflict that's coming. And I want to end with tariffs, right? Who pays? Well, we all pay. We pay directly a tariff and we indirectly pay for tariffs. And Trump thinks he's doing the right thing, and I see nothing but trouble from it. Tariffs may fix some problems, but they also let us know if we're having to do tariffs, if we're having to get into these economic wars, that means we're not in strong economic shape because we're having to do and take these excessive means for protecting. So now what I would like to do is get to the story that I think is extremely relevant this week. Last weekend we had the mass shootings where lunatic, extremist, fringe morons murdered people. There's lots of evidence that the government is not giving us the whole truth about what happened in El Paso. There's always evidence of the government hiding things and then trying to feed us a news story about what happened that fits their agenda. It's rather nauseating in a lot of ways. Now, my heart goes out to people who had family members killed. It's horrible. But the people that did this are lunatics, and they are political pawns. Why should we, the people, give up our right to self-defense, to self-preservation, to protecting ourselves, our family, and those around us? Why should we give up our rights because criminals have chosen to violate our rights? So first the criminal violates our right to life, and then the government violates our right to self-preservation. It's completely asinine, is it not? So, we get to the end of the week, and Trump suggests common sense gun control. We've heard that language before. Now, before I get into all this, I want to start with the caveat that Trump has been famous, at least in my book, he's famous for taking a problem, and rather than doing a knee-jerk reaction, he waits a couple days, then he says something, and it pacifies the Democrats. It pacifies them. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing this. And then they shut up. And then Americans, because of our apathy and stupidity en masse in general, seem to forget about the issue. The mainstream media is there trying to constantly remind us of the fact that there's all these mass shootings. But Trump has, to his credit, gotten people to calm down, be patient, and look at stuff. I think, and he's not perfect, by the way, I'm not defending things, right? A lot of people got pissed over the bump stock thing, right? But we haven't had a call for an outright ban of assault weapons and all other weapons that are dangerous, right? He's calling for one of the most seemingly innocuous common sense considerations. Right? That's what he's calling for. He says deranged people shouldn't have guns. Let's use some common sense. But he's calming down the left. That was quite interesting. I love it when the computer decides it's going to do what? Just start playing some music. He's calming the left down. To sweep this under the rug? To minimize the efforts on their side? Let the American people have a chance to digest this and think about it, right? Common sense. Okay. Trump announced his support for the red flag laws from the White House on August 5th, stating, now this is where it gets dumb. that, quote, those judged to pose a great risk to public safety should not have access to firearms, and that if they do, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. Now, this is interesting. The word judged, adjudicate, requires a hearing. Who is the one doing the judged, and on what evidence are they being judged? We have a right to due process, to face the accuser. We have a right in our system. We have a right in our system to be tried by our peers, not a judicial board, and not from anonymous complaints. Right? So he starts with the word judged, those judged to pose. I mean, those who a conclusion has been made about without their knowledge and without being able to put up a defense. You have a right to a defense. It is not a one-way Star Chamber secret prosecution of you that you're not aware is happening, that goes on behind the scenes, and then they come and just say, we're taking your guns. What part of that is just? What part of that is justice? It goes on to say, right, those firearms can be taken through rapid due process. Okay, rapid due process. You're notified that someone has made a complaint. They send you an email. They call you on the phone and they say, hey, person, you have been accused and we're having a judicial proceeding to decide whether or not you have a right to your guns because you might be deranged. Okay then, right? You go to your place of employment and you say, I have a court hearing I have to attend. I'm taking the day off. You go to the court and you have your hearing. But you have a right to defense. And these people have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are deranged. And what is the definition of deranged? Is deranged not agreeing with Elijah Cummings or Maxine Waters or Chuck Schumer or Hillary Clinton? Is that what deranged is? Is your derangement as the accused, does that have to do with political thought? Does it have to do with social thought? Does it have to do with economic ideas? Does it have to do with international diplomacy conclusions or opinions you have? What is deranged? I think deranged is someone who thinks the Constitution should be made into toilet paper or used to start a fire. I think deranged is someone who says that all people in a political party should be put in death camps. That's derangement. Yeah. You want deranged? How about Antifa that believes that because someone has hurt your feelings by something they said, you have a right to beat them or kill them? That's deranged. That's dangerous. Right? Being a prepper, I'm not deranged. I've been talking to you guys for years. I've committed no crimes in all of that time or before. How could I be considered deranged? How could you be considered deranged by these people? What is the political test? What is the psychological test? Right? What is the economic or social test that you have to pass in order to not be considered deranged? Common sense, right? There is no common sense to what they're prescribing. The common sense we all want is we shouldn't have to be killed because someone else is a lunatic. That's the common sense conclusion. We have a right to life. That is common sense. We have a right to self-defense. That is common sense. The government and anyone else who wants to accuse us has no right to take our means of self-defense based on their belief system or their complaint. A complaint doesn't make fact. A complaint is merely a complaint. And there should be a penalty for those who falsely accuse others of being deranged. And we should be able to face our accuser, whoever they are, because you can bet your bottom dollar, you can bet your ass that they have an axe to grind with the person. Right? Being deranged based on someone else's opinion of you, especially today where Democrats are way on the left and we're just sitting here going, nothing changed for me. I've lived my life believing that freedom is a good thing and that the Constitution is a good thing and that the American dream should include life, liberty, the right to own property, the right to be protected from the government, and your papers and your things, your property should be secure, including firearms and guns and bows and arrows and lions and tigers and bears. We should have all of those things and have protection from the government so it can't make frivolous laws based on what they call common sense, which is the antithesis of our judicial system, our system of justice that was based on common law principles of the right to exist and be free. So is Trump putting this out here, as he has in the past with many different subjects, just to quell, to quiet, to pacify the left? This idea of common sense, red flag laws. You want a red flag? I tell you what, someone makes a complaint and says, well, that person over there just threatened to kill that other person. Okay, now the police can go talk to that other person. A complaint has been lodged. You don't get to have a secret Star Chamber meeting and then show up in the middle of the night and bang on their door and point guns at them and scare the shit out of people and then take their property without due process. It is not rapid due process. It is abbreviated, and it's not due process. At that point, it is a secret cabal that is going after people's rights to life. Yes, slippery slope arguments have done what in the realm of gun control? They have continued to let us know, if you take this little bit, they're going to ask for even more. The lefts are called progressives, which supports the idea that the slippery slope argument is not a logical fallacy. In this case, being progressive describes exactly what they're doing. They're progressively taking your rights a little bit at a time. And as they do so, it is the slippery slope. You give an inch and they ask for another. Right? You give an inch and they take a mile. And they keep pushing their agenda. A piece at a time they'll take from us. It is a valid argument to say this is a very, very dangerous and slippery slope for the government to suggest that red flag law is common sense and that you can be judged without having a defense and being able to be there to defend yourself, to face your accuser, and to challenge the very law itself on its face. And to say, well, tell you what, we're going to pass this law and we'll let the Supreme Court decide later, if they take the case in a number of years, whether or not it's constitutional. It clearly is not constitutional, and it violates the rights across the board. Not just the Bill of Rights, that is, the 10 amendments that were added to the Constitution. It violates precepts of law. Those laws had to be put down into the Bill of Rights so that the government couldn't ignore them and just say, well, we're going to kind of forget about that. No, they were put there as an attempt at ironclad protection against violations of due process, to keep government out of our right to speak and our right to defend ourselves, the First and Second Amendments. The Second Amendment is not there for the government to give or take as it sees fit. It is there to protect the people, to allow them to protect ourselves from abusive government and from other enemies, foreign and domestic. That's right, there are foreigners in our country here now. We have a right to protection against them as well as other people who would impose their wills upon us. You don't have a right as another person to impose your will upon someone. Yet here we are. That's exactly what they're doing. They're calling us neo-Nazis while they take Nazi-type action. And they're making Nazi-type demands. And they are doing what the Nazis did, and that was disarm the German people. That's what they're trying to do. And they're extremely afraid of us, the people, having weapons. Those leftist, progressive, social communists. They're afraid of us because they know we can defend ourselves. And we should defend ourselves. But we are in a moment of crisis, right? The balloon of everything is full, right? The birth pains of what is coming are self-evident now. Every system, every sector is under attack aggressively. And here we are, you and I, here we are facing this incredible threat to our economy, to our military, to our borders, to our sovereignty, to our individual rights, to our traditions and our cultures. You know, I put out news stories, I put out videos, I put out links. There is not enough time in a day for me to cover everything. It is an unrelenting surge coming at us, and we're trying to stand, right, and face this tsunami of stupidity. They're changing the language. They've gone from PC, telling us what we can talk about, to changing the meanings of words. The progressive socialist left has decided that the use of words is in itself an act of violence and they can respond to you in kind. What kind of thinking is that? Right? The claim that we should all be tolerant of other people's views while we're being treated intolerantly. The belief that we can all have our own views while being told that we can't have our views and talk about them and share them, or speak them in public or in private without being castigated or censored or punished by social media and social groups. Having it follow you to your house and follow you to your place of work if you dare to speak against this evil that is out there, that is trying to destroy our nation. It is here, and it has pronounced itself the enemy of the United States of America and our Constitution and our Declaration of Independence. It has declared itself the enemy of that through its actions and its precepts and its ideology that is for everyone to see now. They've declared themselves the enemy and then sworn to attack us if we dare expose it and bring it to debate. My channel is not about violence. It's about debate, thinking, considering ideas. Yet here they are. And here's President Trump suggesting common sense gun control. You know who's deranged? Is people who have left all concept of reason and logic behind. They're deranged when they say a child gets to choose whether they're a boy or a girl. Why would that ever come into a child's head? They look down and they see whatever genitals they have, and that's what you are. Why should a child question it beyond that, unless someone has put that idea in their head? It's a bad idea. Look at the fruits it's creating, right? You can tell a tree by its fruits. Never mind the double entendre that just occurred, right? You can tell a true tree by its fruits, whether the fruit is rotten or whether it is good and healthy. Our system's coming down. The things that they're prescribing for us are unhealthy. Unhealthy. We're supposed to remain tolerant of them while they're intolerant of us and threaten us with death camps and murder and destruction financially and socially and personally. That is what is out here. If you believe them and do what they say, oh, you're rewarded with what? More guilt? While they push further and further in the direction of extreme asinility? It's time to wake up, folks. It's time to realize we are in the crisis. It has started. We're just not seeing all the consequences of it yet. The crisis is upon us. It's in front of us. They're calling for death camps. They're calling for the extermination of those that don't believe them and won't follow them. That's very, very serious. They are the ones who are deranged. We are peaceful. I don't promote mega violence against anybody, but they are. I should have the right, and I continue to have the right to protect myself and carry a concealed weapon. In fact, on Thursday, a man carrying a concealed weapon with a permit was able to stop a man who had 100 rounds of ammunition and a gun who was probably there to do something very bad. And he didn't shoot him. He made an arrest and held the man until police showed up. That's proof that having guns is exactly what we need. And the more of us out here that are legal, lawful, law-abiding, Constitution-loving, God-fearing, red-blooded Americans with guns, the more of us there are, the more the criminal-minded will realize they're not going to get away with what they're doing. The more we stand up and say, no, we want our guns, the more government will realize the people are awake. And in fact, more people are saying in polls than ever, the numbers are going the other way. People are saying, no, we don't want to give up our guns, including Democrats. They're saying, no, this is not the time to give them up. Indeed, there never is a time, because it always acts as a prophylactic measure against tyranny of all sorts, both public and private. I implore you as an American, as a citizen of this planet, if you wish, that the right of self-defense is necessary and needed, because without it, tyrants have no opposition to implementing and forcing their wills upon people. God bless America. Chance favors the prepared mind is yours. Write Trump and tell him red flag laws? No. Due process? Yes. You want to take my guns? You better have a law that is constitutional that allows you to take them, and there needs to be due process before they are taken, not after. You have to prove it beforehand, not afterwards. Catch someone in the act of committing a crime? Yeah, then you take their weapon from them. Makes sense, doesn't it? They're now criminals. You can't legislate someone a criminal and then come and get them. Right? That's what they're trying to do, make legislated criminals. Right? By saying, well, the red flag law is passed, now we have the legislation. And to be a criminal, all you have to do is receive an accusation. That flies in the face of all reason and logic and common sense. There is nothing common sense about red flag laws. Due process? Yes. Take me to court, allow me to face the accuser, allow me to challenge the law itself. Yes. Allow me to be tried by my peers. That is, the people around me. To question both the fact and the law. That's what justice is supposed to be about. You guys be cool, and I'll talk to you again later. Have a good weekend and enjoy all that you can. And always remember, you must be prepared with what's coming. Food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, means of self-defense, and a plan. Go to thepreparedmind.club. Go to Patreon to support what it is we do here. It's not just me sitting here, but I'm the only one you see. There is the R Syndicate, and they are with me, and I am with them. The R Syndicate is a fictional group we created that is the silent majority, if you will, out here, who believe in freedom. That's the R Syndicate. Okay? But it's also the rsyndicate.com, where you can go to find all patriots of all sorts and preppers who want to talk to you and share their messages and truths. So once again, thank you for supporting us, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Eyes open. Semper Fi. Godspeed.